Did the ancient Egyptians have their own form of battery power? Is there a book that no one in the world can read? And did our ancient ancestors possess the technology to map the planets? We've pulled together our top 10 list of some of the most amazing artefacts ever discovered. Our first entry is a baffling little object known as the Roman Dodecahedra. These small objects are typically about 4 inches in size and are usually made of bronze, but occasionally stone examples have been uncovered. Over 100 have been located across many different countries in Europe, and they are believed to date from before the 3rd century AD. Each has 12 pentagon-shaped faces with a small ball-like protrusions on each corner of the pentagon. The faces have holes in them which are usually of different sizes. Okay, so what makes them amazing artefacts? Well, it's that no one has any idea what they were actually used for. There are no contemporary records about their purpose, which has led to a whole host of theories and speculations. And these theories are pretty far-reaching. Were they a device for measuring projectile angles? Or were they a candle holder? Perhaps they were a child's toy, or maybe a knitting loom. Did they help predict the best time to sow crops, or were they a religious object? Maybe they were even a gaming piece. Well, nothing is certain yet about the Roman dodecahedra, apart from the fact that there are bound to be more theories as to their purpose. At number 9 is a seriously large set of amazing artefacts, the Terracotta Army. Originally discovered completely by chance in 1974, when a group of farmers were digging a well in Xi'an in China. When they unearthed clay heads, archaeologists investigated and discovered a whole army of warriors made from terracotta or baked clay. The army was made in the 3rd century BC as statues for the tomb of the first emperor of China, to protect him in the afterlife. Some of the warriors are over 6.5 feet tall and would have originally been painted with bright pigment. The soldiers are unique in facial expression and their dress is appropriate to their rank and role. Thousands of figures have been unearthed and it is believed that many thousands more are still in the ground. And it's not only soldiers, over 100,000 weapons have been recovered, and also chariots and horses too. It's estimated that nearly 750,000 people worked on the mass production of the army for possibly over 10 years. At number 8 in our top 10 list is the British Museum Crystal Skull. Weighing in around 5 kilos or 11 pounds and made of clear quartz, this artefact was acquired by the British Museum back in 1897 from the jewellery house Tiffany & Co. and has since developed a serious cult following. Although it's very difficult to determine its age, it was originally thought to be an ancient pre-Columbian artefact, but recent studies have suggested it may be a modern creation, as the workmanship on the skull and the techniques used to create it would have not been available at the time it was supposedly made. And yet it's not the only example of a crystal skull in existence. In fact, there are said to be numerous skulls around the world in the care of both museums and private collections, and there's even a legend which states that in time of need, 13 crystal skulls will be brought together and will save the Earth from a catastrophic event. So what was it used for? Was it an ancient religious artefact? Does it have mystical healing powers? Is the 13 skull legend true, or was it just an elaborate fake to make some quick cash? If it is a hoax, it seems to have been a lot of work for little return. Maybe they should have just made a crystal chandelier instead. Whilst not a portable artefact, our list had to include the strange hieroglyphs found on the temple of Seti I at Abydos. Over 3,000 years old, this set of carvings appears to show a number of vehicles which look very modern. You don't have to look too hard to be able to make out a helicopter, a tank and a plane. So did the ancients have prior knowledge of technologies which have really been known to us for only 100 years? Did the ancient aliens swoop down and leave the Egyptians with designs for high-tech vehicles? Now, debunkers have refuted this claim, stating that what we actually see is not one set of carvings, but actually 2 sets, as the temple was started by Seti I, but was completed by his son Ramesses II. They claim that the strange images are nothing more than a result of one set of carvings that was subsequently filled and recarved with the name of the new pharaoh, and that it's just coincidence that it now appears to show some very out-of-place artifacts. Whatever the truth, the images continue to cause debate and are the perfect material for the conspiracy theorist. In at number 6 is a bronze object which is about 30 centimetres or 12 inches in diameter and weighs in at about 2.2 kilos or 5 pounds and is known as the Nebra Sky Disk. It's believed to have been buried around 1600 BC, although it could even be older, and is the oldest representation of the cosmos known to exist. Originally considered by many to be a fake, it is now generally accepted as being an authentic ancient artefact and to be one of the most important archaeological finds in a century. It was discovered near Nebra in Germany in 1999 by a pair of illegal treasure hunters as part of a hoard containing swords, jewellery and other precious objects, and includes a representation of the sun, moon, stars, including the Pleiades. This disc indicates the advanced levels of astronomical knowledge possessed thousands of years ago. Some say it might even have been used to commemorate the passing of the infamous planet Nibiru, which is believed to orbit the sun every 3,600 years. Alternatively, it is said to be able to provide information about dates to sow seeds, harvest crops, and to align lunar and solar calendars. But unlike Stonehenge, you can actually carry it around in your pocket. it. In at number 5 is a famous hammer. No, I'm not talking about the mythical hammer of the god Thor, I'm referring to the London hammer. In 1936, Max and Emma Hahn were out walking in London, Texas, when they discovered what looked like a piece of wood embedded into a piece of rock. They took the object home, and over 10 years later their son broke it open to reveal the head of a hammer that was encased inside the rock, with a wooden handle fixed into it. The rock that the 6-inch hammer was encased in appears to be from the Ordovician period, which was over 400 million years ago, and in order for the hammer to be encased in the rock, then obviously the hammer had to exist before the rock did, making it one seriously ancient artifact. Now being displayed in the Creation Evidence Museum in Texas, whatever its origins, this artifact will no doubt continue to spark debate, and I guess we'll leave it to you to make up your own mind on this one while the various sides hammer it out. Did the ancients have the technology to generate electricity thousands of years before it was discovered in modern times? Artifacts discovered near Baghdad in the 1930s, said to date from around 250 BC to 650 AD, seem to support this theory and dispel the myth that electricity was only discovered in the last few hundred years. The artifacts, known as the Baghdad Batteries, are clay pots just under 15 centimeters or 6 inches tall, which contain a rolled copper cylinder and an iron rod inside the copper cylinder. Now, it's been argued that these pots were simply used to house sacred scrolls, but another interpretation is that these ancient artifacts were actually very early forms of batteries. Modern tests have been performed to build replicas of these batteries, and it's been shown that once filled with an electrolyte solution, such as vinegar or lemon juice, they can generate around 1 volt. Whilst that's never going to illuminate a city, there are a number of possible uses that may support the battery theory. Perhaps they were used as part of a religious ceremony or for a mystic healing process. Another alternative use for the batteries is that they may have provided the ability to electroplate objects with gold or silver. Whilst there's no documented historical evidence for electroplating, just imagine if you had the ability to apparently turn base metals into gold, would you go around writing it down so everyone else could do it? Next up is the Antikythera Mechanism. Antikythera is a small island in the Mediterranean Sea to the southeast of Kythera. Around Easter time back in 1900, Greek sponge divers discovered the wreck of a cargo ship off the coast, where a whole host of treasure were discovered about 150 feet below the water's surface. Included in the finds was what looked like a solid lump of corroded metal or rock. It wasn't until 2 years later, on May the 17th, 1902, that a Greek archaeologist, Valerios Stais, took a closer look and saw what he thought was a gear of some kind, or cog, inside the rock. After decades and decades of investigation using some state-of-the-art technologies, experts have managed to create high-quality 3D images of the mechanism. And it turns out there's not only one gear, but there are about 30, and it's thought that originally the device contained even more. Even more awesome is the fact that they have managed to uncover and decipher hundreds of inscriptions on the device. The object is believed to be about 2,000 years old, said to have been constructed about 100 to 200 BC, about the size of a shoebox. It would have originally had dials on either side, and is believed to be the earliest example of an analog computer. It could have been used to predict astronomical positions, solar and lunar calendars, eclipses, and even the cycle of the Olympic Games. No countdown of the top 10 amazing artifacts would be complete without the artifact that has caused a huge amount of debate and disagreement across both science and religion. That item has to be the Shroud of Turin. Said to be the burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified over 2,000 years ago, the 4x1 metre linen cloth bears the image of a body of a man over 6 feet high, and on close inspection the marks on the shroud appear to be consistent with the wounds that it is said Jesus suffered. It appears to show blood marks on the wrists and feet, blood flowing from the side of the body, bruising and swelling on the face, and scourging on the back. There are numerous contemporary references to Jesus' burial shroud, but the early history of the Turin shroud appears to be a mystery. We do know that in 1532 it was damaged when there was a fire in the chapel it was housed in. The shroud is now housed in Turin Cathedral, where it is kept in a humidity and temperature controlled casing. It's only rarely on display to the public, but in the exceptional cases when it is on display, hundreds of thousands flock to see it. Over the years, the shroud has been extensively studied, and it has been confirmed that the marks were not painted on. In 1988, fragments were subjected to carbon dating at Oxford University, where results indicated that the shroud dated from around late 13th to early 14th century. Whilst this may seem to quash the theory it was Jesus of Nazareth's burial shroud, further controversy was sparked when it was argued that a small sample carbon dated may well have been a corner of the shroud which was replaced hundreds of years after the shroud was first used, and the dating of the sample would therefore obviously be medieval. So is the Shroud of Turin the genuine burial shroud of Jesus of Nazareth? A burial shroud of a medieval knight, or is it an elaborate forgery? Whatever the origin and history of the Shroud, one thing is certain: it will continue to spark debate, devotion and disagreement for many years to come. Our number one amazing artifact is a book which has simply defied all attempts of the greatest minds to decipher the text. Carbon dated to early 1400s, this book is known as the Voynich Manuscript, after Wilfred Voynich, a book dealer who purchased the book in Italy in 1912. At just under 250 folios of calfskin, the Voynich Manuscript is an elaborately decorated volume with a large number of illustrations, including plants, some of which are not even recognisable to us, astronomical pictures, biological pictures of women bathing, and what appear to be pharmaceutical illustrations. Whilst the illustrations themselves are intriguing, the biggest mystery is the text. The manuscript appears to contain nearly 40,000 words in total, but does not appear to be written in any language known to us. Numerous attempts to decode it by cryptographers, historians and language experts have all failed, and the text remains still a complete mystery. Various theories have been proposed as to the origin of the text. Was the Franciscan friar Roger Bacon the author? Was it created by a medieval doctor to baffle and intrigue his patrons, or did Voynich himself create the text as an elaborate hoax, using his knowledge of antiquarian books? And even if the author could never be discovered, the question still remains as to the form of the text. Was it written in a secret cipher invented hundreds of years ago which is now lost to us? Is it based on a language at all, or is it just a collection of random words designed to confuse? Although now safely housed in a library, one thing is clear: the Voynich Manuscript remains to this day the world's most unreadable book. So this was our look at the top 10 most amazing artifacts. Do you agree with our choices, or do you have other examples of awesome artifacts? As usual, let us know and like, comment and subscribe.